Hey, everybody, welcome to It's time for you to rewrite your life. For you, that means we have to do the work. You have to do the work. And I would like to talk to you all with my friend Alena Chapman. We decided to call this Mindfulness in Your Ascension. Yeah, the awakening, your ascension. What does that mean to you, um, Alena? Ascension and mindfulness in your ascension.
Ooh, I think they're one and the same. Ascension and mindfulness. I mean, some people do ascend without the mindfulness. However, it isn't, they eventually have to meet that somewhere. And I always say it's best to meet it in the beginning because you'll hit certain stages. Like we were talking the other day, and I'm going to just dive right in.
Sure.
I've known people who have not really had the mindfulness. And when they get to a certain stage, the stage of what does it all mean? It all means nothing. Doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter anything because it's all nothing, right? We all reach that stage where we reach that there is no real big giant purpose. I'm not supposed to be president because my soul says I have to be president, that kind of thing. And and we also come to this realization. I am not responsible for what you think. I am not responsible for how you feel. And without the mindfulness, and I guess we should define mindfulness, but your listeners might be able to get it from this example, that you get into that place where there, I had to press that button that was blocking your face. Oh. Then that you really don't care, and you just become coarse and harsh with people, not caring how they feel, that it's up to them, but yet you are not being your best person. You are not caring what you are presenting to the world. And because you say it's everyone else's responsibility for how they feel. Now, yes, it is a responsibility, but if you had the mindfulness, if you had the understanding of how we are all interconnected, and you understand that what I do to you, I do to myself because we are one, everything is one, then you will not want to be harsh to that person because you know it is reflecting on you. It's coming back to you in the same way or harsher because it has to, because we're all connected, right?
Right.
So that, but if you reach that spot in an ascension with mindfulness, then all of a sudden, yes, it doesn't matter. And I might not have a purpose, but the kindness and the understanding that we are all one, and that kindness and that understanding that I want to make you feel good too, even though I'm not responsible for it, but because I know that's who I am. I'm from love, right? I start to understand that. Then all of a sudden, you're spreading light. It doesn't matter if I'm president. It doesn't matter if I'm just a clerk in a store. It doesn't matter if I just don't work at all. It doesn't matter if I am King Siam or I am Alena Chapman. It does not matter. It just matters that I am spreading kindness. And that is the thing that resonates when you're ascending. And that will lead you through your ascension faster. Because in the end, what you do find out is that the only thing that really matters is love and kindness and understanding for other people. And I know it's become a cliche, but that's only from people who don't understand how powerful it is. That love is not about that other person completely, but to be filled with love is this incredible feeling. And you can conquer anything.
Bingo. That's a
You do.
huge point right there. Your life becomes a lot sweeter when you
It
come
does.
from that perspective. I look at my awakening, if you will, in 2009 when I left corporate. It was the same year I lost my personal newspaper and split up with my long-term relationship with the rodeo star. And I had an awareness. I started looking out for more, and I had an awareness. However, from 2009 till now, I've had to grow my mindfulness. And it's interesting. Somebody just asked me a couple of weeks ago, and it occurred to me when I thought about mindfulness, which, by the way, has a lot of definitions because it has a lot of applications, right? But
Right.
somebody asked me, Raphael, if you're connected to the universe as much as you talk about, because I've had several experiences like we have that people might, some
Mhm.
people who are unmindful or unawakened might think, call us crazy. And yes, they have called me crazy. Not nothing to do with me, but if they don't understand that, but they've asked me, a woman asked me, a friend of mine, I think she's in California, and she says, Raphael, if you're connected to the universe, why did you do all this personal mastery training and self-development with Peter Sage and all these other people? And I just said, well, that's a good question. You should look into that. Because we're still responsible for ourselves. And I
Yeah.
wanted to be the best version of me. And so I
Right.
shine my light. And we talked about that, being the light, because I see you, Alena, as not a motivator. And we talked about this, but
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
what's the word? Inspiration.
Inspire. Yes.
Inspire. Yeah, because you turn on that light. And
Yes. Yeah.
is it okay if I just give a quick example of mindfulness? Um,
Yes. Do that.
there are
Yes.
so many different applications and definitions, and you know how it is. I thought about looking in the dictionary for a definition on mindfulness so I could say what it was, but then I thought, no, I'm not going to ask somebody else's definition of it because
No.
that's all
No.
we're doing when we're looking at dictionary
Yeah.
is somebody's
Yeah.
definition. And I do have a BA in English, but anyway, I think about its applications. The first thing I think about, I mean, perhaps it shows up because we run a horse rescue here. We just took in a lame horse. It's so beautiful, but she's horribly abused, and I will never let anybody ride her because I'm just going to let her be a horse because she limps. And we have a half blind Appaloosa pony we brought in to be her friend, and they get along great together. So
Yeah.
no judgments on anybody's disabilities, but mindfulness for the other species, mindfulness for the environment. I would like to say that mindfulness is how we are being aware or present with our environment. And that's the first thing when I think environment, I think ecosystem, the other species, which I love. We have a ranch and we leave many acres, more than we use, much more to the other species. For the horses, just to be horses, and the groundhogs to pop up and say hi. They're so cute. And the coyotes and the deer who come and eat from our orchard. But anyway, but there's other definitions of environment. There's our relationships, our environment of the people around us. And the most important relationship is the relationship with self. Are you
Right.
mindful of, and this is what I had to do, I had to police my thoughts. Am I being negative or am I being positive? And did I know that my thoughts, the inner world, is controlling the outer world? If I'm not coming from a place of love, then I'm going to mirror my life, so to speak. And the other one is emotions. Was I suppressing my emotions? Was I aware of them? So I guess mindfulness is being aware of how you're interacting in all these relationships,
Yes. Yeah.
boundaries,
Mhm.
peer groups. Um,
We
I
just.
haven't been into a I haven't been in a bar for years because I don't want to hang around that mundane. I don't want to, I see old friends. I ask how they're doing, and they come. This one guy the other day was complaining about his last ER visit, but his shopping cart is full of Billy's beer. Oh, I used to say Billy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, are you being mindful to your body, to yourself,
Right.
to your health? Are you mindful for your health? Are you mindful about your financial? I mean, that's how we interact with society. I've often not been mindful about my financial decisions. Do I have assets or do I just earn it and spend it? You know, and
Mhm.
all kinds of mindfulness. Spiritual, mind, body, spirit. Do you leave the body out of your mind, body, spirit experience? Is your spirituality, what does it mean to you? Does it mean awareness or beliefs? Two different things. Awareness is an experience, being mindful. So to close this little diatribe of mine, it's a negative application. I just want to share something, and I'm going to be a little vulnerable here. A couple
Mhm.
of days ago, I said something to my partner Brenda. She's Navajo, Dene, Zuni, and she's very mindful about her presence and environment and all that. And I just love her. She's such a wonderful, beautiful spirit.
So
And
cool.
I had said something to her about how I was kind of dismayed about she spends too much time looking at her cell phone. And she had to go to work the next day and get up early. And so she decided to sleep on the couch. And I took it the wrong way. I didn't take it as I snore sometimes when my sinuses act up. I've had a real problem with that all my life. And I flop and turn because I get aching sometimes, especially after I go to the gym and I do yoga. I teach a yoga class, which I still do in my home to advanced students. And these are things doctors told me not to do because I fell from a cliff 3 years ago. So anyway, I flop and turn because I'm dealing with my body. I'm healing myself. I don't do drugs. I don't do doctors. And
Mhm.
I'm successfully healing myself. I came from a wheelchair within a couple of weeks.
Right.
So anyway, I was laying there in bed. I felt lonely. I felt hurt. I felt a little angry that she was sleeping out on the couch is because she needed to get some sleep and she wanted to be by the wood stove. But I wasn't being mindful of that. I was being selfish and I was feeling pretty bad. And then I thought, because of my training, I thought, hey, wait a minute. What are you thinking, Raphael? What's going on? Are you concerned about you? Or are you considering her goals, her values,
Mhm. Mhm.
her, what's going on with her? And I thought,
Mhm.
wait a minute. I love her unconditionally. There's nothing she can do that can stop me from loving her, period.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
what unconditional love, knowing
Yeah.
that she is as important as me, her feelings, emotions, goals,
Needs.
everything.
Yes.
So I get up, I brought her pillow, I brought her a blanket, I brought her some water, and she was asleep, and so I took her glasses off,
Oh,
and I made sure the wood stove was fired up, and then I went back to bed. The most interesting thing, I was fine now. I felt good. I was comfortable. I was happy.
yeah.
And it's come
Yeah.
from a life, I mean, it comes from a moment of being mindful, about my thoughts and emotions and how I was relating to this intimate relationship. And
Yeah.
so
It is. It's
I'm sure
very mindfulness is the whole key. And you can't help but when you ascend to start to take all these relationships. I do think a lot of times it does start with the I, understanding the importance of I, and also what is it that we grow from I to we, and then we have to get back to I, and then we can welcome in the we again, right? Because we're
right,
born, we're I, and then society brings us into the we, but then when society brings us in, it's with all the rules and regulations. And a lot of times we're worthy and we're not worthy. And also, then we're also, you're talented, you're not talented, you're smart, you're not smart. All these categories they put us through. And then we have to find ourselves back to our I. And who are we? And it's okay who we are. And when we start to understand that and stop apologizing in all our glory, then we start to understand that we are connected, then the mindfulness for others starts to happen almost immediately.
Mhm.
It does, because you can't separate it. And plus it's hard to jump into how am I making you feel when I feel like crap, right? And so you have to start, most of the times when I start working with someone, it is to start with that self. What are the things that need to be healed? What are the things that you are holding as a false identity, like I'm not worthy, that I am not a good person, or that I am weak, or whatever those nonsense things are that we toss around in our minds,
The
right?
labels we hang on ourselves.
The labels, and
They come
they
off
turn
with
into
Velcro.
labels. And
No.
we have to get down to that. And once, and it's not that hard, folks. It's not, doesn't take like years in therapy. It takes just one or two little sessions to get that through. And then it's funny, as soon as you start to rip that off, then the universe kind of takes over. I told you the story. I had already started in my marriage, which was at a very tough, a horrid point, actually. And I was trying to look for answers. I wanted to get back Alena, because Alena had gotten terribly lost. It was not a good marriage. And the me that I thought I was had been torn down, purposely, actually. And I didn't see my magic. And for the first time in my life, it was, I can blame the environment. I can blame my ex-husband. I can blame, but really, now that I have the sight to see, it was needed. I needed to see what it was like to live in that mundaneness, that place of where so many people live, that every day is just like another mountain to climb. And it's another day of, oh God, I got to go do this, that feeling. It's a heaviness. It's so heavy. And I was getting down into that. And my magic was gone. So I wanted to find it back. And but that led to the marriage not doing so hot. The happier I got, the more unhappy he got. Well, needless to say, the divorce was not good. And when I was really, there goes the sun again, which I'm happy to see. Please do come, sun. Then when I was really at a point where it was just too much, I went on a drive, because I drive when I'm upset. If I'm trying to think something over, I drive. I love that car. And so, because it's this wonderful feeling of momentum, that things are not standing still as I'm trying to figure it out. And to me, that's wonderful. But anyway, I let the car take me, and it took me to a little town. And I found a stone fence, which I adore stone fences. I just do. So of course I followed it up to an old monastery. And I got out of the car, and there were all these old trees. And I went out of the car, and I just was saying hello to all the old trees, because I love trees. And then I sat down on the ground, and I sort of just flopped, and I closed my eyes, because it had been a very overwhelming week, month, but especially that day. And I'm a very strong person, but I just couldn't take anymore. And so I sat down, and I closed my eyes, and I didn't even know what to think. I just knew that I was not in a good place. And I could feel the trees lean in on me. With my eyes closed, I could literally feel the trees leaning in. And I thought, oh, I just thought that feels so nice. And then I felt this little breeze pick up, and it just like kissed my cheek, and my eyes are still closed. And I thought, wow, that's different. And then I heard a hawk. So I opened my eyes, and there's this hawk that's just circling over me, just circling me and cawing, like, hey, we're here, pay attention. And then when I had my eyes open, I looked down at the ground, and around me, these insects. And I told you, Raphael, they were like beetles and stink bugs, and all the little hard covered ones, ecosystems. going around clockwise around me. And nothing, it really, when you start to understand how this universe works, the universe was trying to show me something incredible. It was saying, we feel what you feel. We are you and you are me. We are all one. We are connected. Everything here feels what your sorrow. Everything here is responding to your sorrow. You are one with us. We are one with you. We are all connected. And it hit me like a brick, like the thought just appeared once I saw the insects. And I'm telling you, then all of a sudden, you know, your mindfulness, and everybody gets an experience like that.
Yeah.
Everyone gets an experience.
And
I mean, they might not
different.
have insects marching around them, but something, that's the thing. The universe, once you set things in motion, the universe will try to meet you on your grounds that you will understand. Me, I understand nature. I understand trees. I understand the wind, the water, I understand that. So when it sends me a message there, I know that what it means, and I can feel it. You will get it in another way, but it always shows you that incredible inclusiveness of the world. And a lot of us don't pay attention. And yet that's the biggest ascension in the beginning that you can ever have. And it usually does come pretty much in the beginning, because the universe understands that you're going to a place of total love. And the sooner you start to understand that connectiveness, your self-worthiness is taken care of. Your feeling of everyone being different than you is abolished. Understanding that everything around you is connected means that you feel a fullness. You feel worthy. You feel
connected.
Well, yeah, this connectiveness, this incredible connectiveness, that you are much bigger than you ever thought you were, right? And everything is it becomes a wonderful life. It really does.
It's really interesting how a lot of us out there, I'll bet, have experienced being almost broken, to a spot of being broken to where something is revealed to you. I remember
Right.
the day I was working with the South Koreans for some months. I worked with them for some years, and over in Sedona, and I said to them, you know, maybe one of these days when I go rock climbing, because I've been a climber all my life, maybe I should just jump, because I don't think I can get through what I've done to myself in my life. And maybe if I jumped, I could come back and stand a better chance of getting enlightenment. And
Oh, wow.
it was obvious what I was thinking, what I was going on in my head was what I was telling them, what they heard was that without enlightenment, my life means nothing. And then they told me the story about the Emperor Qi and the general and the wise man. And they said, you have desperate mind. You are ready to teach. I'm like, really? How does that work? But there's been these moments like when 2017, when my partner my assistant passed, and I had elected to take care of her. And so I left Sedona with her to take care of her. She had mass seizures, she had nobody. But when she finally passed some years later, and people are telling me, Raphael, you don't have to play the savior. You don't, she's on her own path. Even the Koreans told me that. And I said, it's my choice. She doesn't have family. She's from Italy. I said I would take care of her, and I will. But anyway, when she did pass, I mean, several things happened to me. I had several visitations, but one of them after she passed was when I went down. That was a moment in my life, Alena, when I was feeling very empty. I was broke,
Yes.
so to speak, but it was a gift. And I was very, very present and did not know it. And
Yeah.
I walked down to below my orchard down here to the gardens, and I went down just out of habit, mind you, to pull a weed. And I looked at it and I had no desire to pull that weed, as if without even thinking about it, who am I to kill this?
Who are you to call the weed?
And I
Right.
just straightened up. And when I straightened up, that's when I had my moment. Everything I saw, and I told several people about this, and it's everything I saw was was electricity. Everything was multicolored, and even my hands as I stood up, as I slowly stood up and looking around, I saw that we are all of the same energy. This is an electrical universe. But more importantly, we are all of the same energy. And then I started thinking about this. What does this mean? Now I'm thinking. Now I'm not being present and totally
Right.
present, and everything
Aligned.
just turned back to normal. Fence
Right.
post, animals, garbage,
Yeah. Because you
cabbage.
went into your mind,
Yeah, I went to my
Yeah.
head, and then the matrix took over, if
Yeah.
you will,
It does.
the simulation. But so it happens to different people in different ways, and then we
Yes.
have to interpret that. I love the way that you interpret that, and that's mindfulness. Mindfulness, right off the bat, to me, I love Greenpeace. I love the other species. This is our home, folks. This is our children's home. We must
Yeah.
take care of this. We can't keep, overpopulating and industrializing the environment, because we are an ecosystem.
Great thing.
And
Right.
that's part of mindfulness. Mindfulness is caring about people you don't like. Why? I can say when somebody says to me, they keep stuck on the problem. Yeah, I do that sometimes, right? I repeat myself. When they're stuck on a problem, I can say, I don't care, because I don't care about your problem because you're not willing to talk about the solution. It doesn't mean I don't care about them.
Right.
Not caring is a mental disease. But
Hmm.
it's okay to
Hmm.
set boundaries. And that's another mindfulness category, is boundaries. You have to be mindful by yourself, for yourself and others, if you're wasting both of their times. And
Right.
I think some of us here have been in some pretty rough relationships,
Yes.
for years. When I drove away from a long-term relationship, I was driving, and I remember calling my mother and telling her I was leaving Montana. And she asked, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go down and visit Brenda, that woman who owns the other half of, part of our newspaper." And she had spent a couple of days with my mother, Brenda, the Danae Zuni, my partner. And my
Mhm.
mother goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you're going to see her." She goes, "I was always hoping you would get together." She goes, "Please promise me you won't go back to the other person." And I go, "Oh, I didn't know you felt that way about her, mother." And my mother says about the other person, I just broke up. She says, "Raphael, she's the most negative person I ever met in my life." I'm like, I was floored. Talk about not being present. And after the conversation, I'm driving down from Washington to Arizona, or somewhere. And I was thinking to myself, why did I think it was okay to be in a relationship like that? But I,
Good
I'm not,
question.
I'm not going
Good.
to regret it, because I obviously had to go through that to learn, to be
You
mindful.
know, and you took the right road with that. That's one thing about mindfulness, and that's one thing about ascension. You didn't jump on, well, how can she be just so horrible? But really, and
Well,
the
I was
first thing
there
we
too.
want,
Yeah,
as people, we want to blame that other person,
right.
right? But when you start ascending, and that's one of the first things we learn, why is it that I allowed that in my life? Why is it that I I allowed someone to put me down? Because really it comes back to you. And when you start to realize that, and you start, I put up with that because dot dot dot, then you can start to heal that. And that's what ascension is. And then you start to get more experiences of ease and flow. And the best part is that person and that problem will not reappear in your life. And that, because you won't let it, number one. And number two, it just kind of repels from you because you're not on that track anymore. You're not in that reality for that to hit you anymore.
You've
You're on a
released them.
You have released them, they have released you. And so because we're here to learn lessons. That's what we don't understand. And
Right.
and our lessons are our purpose. Learning the lessons is your soul's purpose.
Yes.
And every soul comes down here with a feeling of has a thing that it really needs to accomplish. But it takes a bunch of experiences and a bunch of lessons for it to gain the information for why it's here, right? It's not that I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an Indian chief. I am going to be a living many different things, many different relationships, many different, I don't know, life lessons that all of a sudden add up to what the soul's purpose of being here is. And isn't that cool? So you can pick any road, but how you deal with each relationship and experience that comes your way is how you grow and how the experiences are digested into your soul as learned. Mm-hmm. So isn't that cool? And that's really what Ascension is about, and really why we're here. It's just that we have not been taught this little crucial little fact, and we're taught the opposite. We're taught to conform. Right. And in conforming, it's following the rules and regulations and what we say we are in nature and what we are to this earth and who we have to be and what's important to accumulate and what's important to let go of. And what has happened is we've got a little skewed and we've got wrong. We don't understand. And right now I hear the worst thing that they say now is that everybody is individualized. It's not that we're individualized. It's that we're all in our own separate bubble trying to survive. There's a difference. It is not, individualism is not bad in the sense that you know that you have a place in this world. You are not just a working body. You are an important aspect in this vibrational place of this universe. Very important. Because, just a little hint, the more your soul ascends, you elevate the whole universe.
And I don't think people being mindful or aware, I don't think people are aware of their pineal gland. It is quite measurable, scientific, measurable, that it is stronger than a radio station we are putting out. And the outer world is controlled by the inner world. We're not told that. We're told to be a doctor or a lawyer or a realtor, and those are three things I don't want to do. And even though I've worked in all those fields, but I want to tell people what goes around in the personal development industry. It's not about the goals, and we're not taught that. It's about who you have to become to reach those goals. It's not about the end goal. It's about who you become. And growing, that's what mindfulness is all about. And you touched on that, is the first step is taking responsibility, not being a victim. What's the hallmark of being a victim is blame. Well, yes. It's their fault. They're doing this to me. It has nothing to do with me. I can't do this because they, no.
And I know that somebody out there is saying, oh, that sounds so heartless, but I'll tell you, I've worked with someone who was in therapy forever because of the abuse and also it was actually a kidnapping and everything else. And she was everything was put the blame on the person who's doing what. Okay, I get it. That was wrong. But for your own, and it should have never happened. But here's the thing, for you to grow past it and to understand it, the one question that wasn't asked, but it has to be asked at the right time. You can't ask when the person's all engrossed, right? But when you get a little learning, then all of a sudden you ask and say, what was it that had you fall for that type of person? A simple question, because it is you. It was you that fell for that person that abused you. It was you that fell for that situation that hurt you. If you look at that without blame, without harshness, without criticism, without condemnation, and instead you just look at it and say, oh my gosh, it's because that person made me feel like this. And why do I need that feeling? And you ask again, and you find out, because I can't feel it myself.
Because I did
And
not love myself.
Right. Or whatever. And that is when you can start building that within you, which makes you stronger. And that once you have it, nothing outside of you will encroach it, because it doesn't need to. You don't have a lack.
Yeah. And we can take it a lot deeper than that. I mean, I was recently working with a young lady, and I've done this quite a bit. I do speaker meetings at women's shelters, and I taught domestic violence and anger management and all that for the local municipalities. But sometimes it's way out of, it may seem way out of your control, because we think the outer world controls the inner whatnot. We think we have no, I guess an easier way of saying this is, can you look at something horrible that's happened to you and see the value, the gift that
takes time.
Giving you a lot stronger. And there's ways of dealing with that.
Yeah.
You know, I have a workbook that I've constructed in my course, Life on Earth School is my course, my long course. And I have a workbook about going back and finding gratitude for anything. And Alena, I've told you, I've literally interviewed serial killers, bars between us, and there's nobody home. They're not there. And
I know.
It's very difficult to talk to a woman and say, who was abused when she was a little girl, or any time, or kidnapped by somebody she didn't know or somebody she did know, and say, and that's what our next podcast with Moira is about, really, is that everything is a gift, right? And which is really hard to tell somebody who's been abused.
Takes time. It takes time,
Yeah.
you know?
It
really
does. A lot of work to get that kind of insight.
It does.
Detach yourself, right?
Well, and I don't know. I try to avoid the feeling of work. I always say that it's opening a flower, you know, because that's what you're doing. You're finding yourself, and you are that flower. And so you just got to get some of those petals to open up that closed up so tight around you, protecting you because of all the hurt and the pain, right? You just got to kind of undo them. And it doesn't have to be harsh. I've never thought anywhere on my journey, anywhere in my ascension, that it was work, ever. I thought it was me looking at myself with honesty. It was at different periods, you know, it was working with guides, and because the universe is all one, not only this planet is not our only universe, folks. You know, it's part of the universe. Everything here on this planet is part of the universe. Well, what's the universe? Well, is it all the other planets?
I mean, we're a planet on the outskirts of the galaxy, right? As some in the ashrams would say, a very dense energy planet on the outskirts of the galaxy.
With the hardest lessons. If you want the hardest lessons, you come to Earth. And welcome to us all here.
Welcome to Earth, everybody. Yay. But you know that saying about, you know, God can never gives you more than you can handle. Well, apparently that's true. Look at all those people who have turned around the worst moments, like the woman who, I forget her name, who was gang raped in India, and she turned around, and instead of living her life in blame, what a strong spirit. She has helped over 10,000 ladies, you know, she has served, and it has made her a superhero.
And she definitely had to open the petals. And that's what it really, seriously, that's what she did. And she found the beauty that was there. And then she can spread that and help others who are hurting. And that's what we all do. But the universe is so vast, guys. And it has so many spirits and angels, guides, anything that are here to help you. I always introduce that on any journey. I always open you up to that, because I remember in my toughest time, it was realizing that I have a guide, I have an animal, I have the universe in angelic forms coming to me, giving me strength. And when we are looking into our ascension, if we understand that, then all of a sudden we gain so much more than just peace. We gain enlightenment. We start getting knowledge from something higher than ourselves. And because we've done the work to take away the petals that tell us it's not true, that we're not worth it, and we start to know and understand and accept all the knowledge and wisdom we are now starting to gain. And that's when you truly ascend above the total mundaneness of living. That's when you start to see that all of this is just whatever I really choose to make it. And I can choose the reality I want to make if I don't like it. And
pull me up there, Alena. Pull me up.
And yeah, I know. And every lesson that we do learn, my gosh, just this week, I bought this beautiful house that's full of peace, and I was guided to buy, right? Well, we had unexpected, and I moved south. I'm a little northern girl in the south, guys. And I'll tell you, on a mountain, and I lost power. And we also lost electricity. And my furnace died in that. My little furnace, or whatever they call it. It's not a furnace, they call it something else. And it just didn't take those low temperatures because they were unexpected in this part of the country. Well, guess what? Everything in the country is starting to change weather-wise. So all of a sudden, I am left 4 days without anything. Now, I can sit on my sofa and piss and moan and say, oh, why is this happening to me? This is so awful. And why is God doing this to me if I'm supposed to be here? And all this wonderful, just let it crash down. But instead, if you are starting to, that's what becoming more aware and going through the ascension and getting enlightened, you start to think, okay, I already know this is a lesson to be learned. And it was about capability. It was also about understanding that nothing is too big to conquer. You don't have to be, everything can be, seem like it's erupting, but how you go walking through it is who you are, And it makes you stronger and more confident, but it's walking through it as you, right? And it's a very, and in your goodness, and everything will work out. We did fine. We did really well, actually, with I'm talking about the dogs, and I have 2 dogs.
Your beautiful doggies, yes.
My beautiful babies. And I mean, with the fire, and we had the fire, we learned how to do things in certain ways to make everything work. And we've made it through. And now the temperatures are going up. The snow is melting. The furnace can come up the mountain, right?
Yes.
So,
yeah.
well, I hope the snow will melt. It's still there. I'm wanting to.
Here too, in Arizona, we still got snow out there. You know, Alena,
as long as they get up the mountain. But what I'm saying is, ascension doesn't mean you aren't going to have lessons. And you're not going to have certain crises, or not crises, challenges. There's the word I wanted. Challenges in your life. But the way you handle it is totally different.
Yes.
And the lessons are learned much, much faster, with much ease and flow. And you don't stress. And when you feel yourself start to stress, because we are human, you know, with your mindfulness about yourself and everything around you, you understand how to get that peace back so that you can bring out the best in you in that challenge.
And you won't get the same lessons over and over if you.
And you never get the same lessons over and over. Yeah.
That's really important. No, Alena, I want to ask you, how many, especially women, well, and guys too, I guess it's not doesn't matter out
Guys too.
there.
I usually have more women than guys for sure.
How many out there do you think that how many people out there think they're alone? Now, you and I see
Ooh,
things that
okay.
a lot of people don't. We see, as you said before, dead people. Yes,
Yeah,
I've been
yeah, I
called
do.
out to help release spirits and whatnot. I've had a lot of visitations. I've had visitations from other planets. I mean, we've had an interesting life because we're open. Why? Because we asked questions, whether or not we knew we were asking those questions. But
We
how
were
many
curious.
people out there do you think they're alone and they're
A
not?
lot of people. A lot of people. You're not alone. You're not alone. And I
No.
know, and sometimes it can feel that way. And I do. I feel for you. And feeling alone is a feeling of a lot of people on the when they live in them. I am so not making it small, but you have that heaviness already in the mundane world
Yeah.
of all the pressures and the demands and who you have to be and what you're expected to look like. And you
And
got all that
the
and,
media.
and the media and not now it's just other people that it's just so much now.
Yeah.
And then you add, okay, then I'm with all these people and I'm alone, and the more people you have, the more alone you feel. And it's a searching for the soul. And there I think, I've dealt with people who feel that loneliness, and it's a search for them
All the
from
time.
inside. It's a really deep one. But I'll tell you, in the short term, you are never alone.
Hmm.
And if you are feeling that, you have got to step out in nature. You have got to get away from the crowds. You have got to get where you physically, it's so weird. It's like, what do they say? It's a bite of the dog that bit you or something. That
Yeah.
old saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, you think
The blood
you
of the
you
dog
need
that
to
bit you.
stay with more. Yeah, yeah. So you think you have to stay in with all the people not to feel alone. It's the opposite. You need to leave all the people and go into nature and go into where the trees are and the grass is blowing so gently with the breeze and the water is flowing. And you need to then connect to everything around you and
Yeah.
then start. That's the first thing, because then I am never alone on the mountain, never. And
And
it's so funny.
you could be in Wibbly Stadium with 10,000 people and be alone. And
Oh
there's
yeah,
so many
you're more
women
alone
out
there.
there looking for someone to complete them. No, you
No,
must
no,
be
no.
complete.
You have to see that you are complete, but you will also see how much you are worth. And I
Yeah.
have so many stories in nature.
Hmm.
If you meditate out in nature, it sends out this incredible spirit of you, and the animals will respond. It is so cool. I've had one time I was just looking at the water and I looked down at this blade of grass beside me, and there's this little, it's the cutest little thing. This little grasshopper is peeking out from a blade of grass at me. And I looked and I started talking to it, and it sent a message to all its other friends. I'm not kidding. And when I got up to go, they flooded the pathway. All these
Oh my
grasshoppers.
goodness.
See,
That's
they
beautiful.
they resonate with you. How can you feel alone with that?
Mhm.
How can you? That opens the door that I am bigger than I think, and I am not alone. And that's why I love to connect people with their guides and their angels and their power animals, because then the journey is not one of just trying to open this flower by yourself, which can be hard, but it's guided. It's totally guided by incredible universal forces that are there for you. You just have to ask and open to it. And that's what makes Ascension easier and more fun. And that's how I learned from shamans. My Hello Soul book tells you all about it. It's just miraculous. You are not alone. And we do suffer from loneliness, but that's by other people's standards. We are not alone. And it's one of the biggest, yeah, that and anxiety. Anxiety is man-made created.
Mhm.
There's never been anxiety so much until the Industrial
And
Revolution.
there's mindful ways regarding your environment. You know,
Mindful ways of and understanding as you ascend, anxiety goes away.
well, and one way of doing it, I'd like to mention because I was with a major, news station, is please throw away your TV. There's nothing on there that has anything to do with you and probably has any basis in reality anyway. I know I work for these guys, and I know what their agenda is. It is affect your amygdala and turn you into fear, so you'll stay glued to the screen, and so we can claim you as a statistic now and get more money from our sponsors. Okay. And
Not
I
not good.
threw my TV out the window in 2006. I became a whistleblower. And so I would like to say environment beats will. Now, I had this argument with a gentleman friend of mine, and we work in animal rescue together. We work with the various rescues. We love animals because animals are very present. That's why I love horses.
Yeah,
They can look you right in the eye and say, "Can you just be here now?" But he was
yeah.
saying it's nothing stronger than the human will. And I said, no, that's not true. Um, the environment beats will every time. It's like when I go and do a speaker meeting at the recovery centers here, I tell them, if you hang around 10 drug dealers, chances are you're going to become the 11th, you know? So, what environment
Reality. Yeah.
signals are you putting in? Get rid of your TV, get rid of your radio, whatever, listen to Alena, listen to,
Yeah.
that Scottish woman who sings a beautiful music. I,
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
can't remember her name. But
I love
anyway, and also environment. What are you putting in your body? What are you putting in your head? What are you putting in your eyes? What are you putting in your body? What food? What air? What water? We have, I think, 0.885 alkaline water that we get from our well. It's wonderful water, and so we're happy with the water here. I go into a restaurant. They say, "Would you like some water?" I'm like, "No,
no.
thank you."
It's totally
Fluoride,
different.
chlorine, no.
Yeah.
Please don't use fluoride in your toothpaste. I don't want to get
Yeah.
into conspiracy theories, but fluoride is very well known to calcify your pineal gland. In fact,
Yeah.
that's how they find the metal of your brain when they do X-rays. I am told by my uh,
The calcium?
yeah, by the calcium around your pineal that shows up on the X-rays, and that's how they find the middle of your brain, so they can take pictures and plan
Oh,
their plan their
that's really sad.
surgeries. Yeah. So I mean, what are you putting into your body? When I picked up this horse, this guy asked me, this lame horse, the owners asked me, they were not very mindful. They didn't care about the horse. They were just
No.
using it. And it was lame, a beautiful, well-bred mare. And it was just lame because it had foundered
Yeah.
and they kept feeding it alfalfa. Please don't do that, folks. If you're not working your horse, don't feed it alfalfa. It's like us eating nothing but beef and liver pate. You're going to blow your kidneys out. That's why horses live half as long as they used to. But the gentleman asked me, and I say gentleman, but he asked me, well, how do you heal a horse like this? And I said, well, how do you heal anything? First of all, you stop putting in things that are bad for you.
Right.
And then you start putting in things that are good.
Right.
So, and that's a part of mindfulness, right?
The same thing. It's the same thing for the spirit as it is for the body,
Yeah.
mind, body, and spirit. It is. And the same thing for the mind. And really, all three have to work together to totally heal, and it really does. And if it doesn't, you're off center and you feel off centered. And so, healing all of them. Do you all have to become a master? No, but at least raise yourself above the heaviness of this world and
Yes.
start to understand that you're not alone, and at least start to have the mindfulness to know that when things happen, that it's how you respond to it that makes all the difference, and how you feel about it. That's even bigger, because that's the heart, right? So how you put the emotion out there, how do you want to feel about it?
And
And
also, what
that's
effect are you having on
and
others,
what
on the
effect
environment, on the world, on everything,
and
on
what
your
effect do you
significant?
want to have on it? You
Yeah,
know?
right.
And that's the biggest thing. And what kind of footprint do you want to leave, if any? And that's just the basics. But if you're really serious about ascension, oh gosh, then you should let me know. You
Call
know,
Lena.
like,
She'll
yeah,
call
go
you up.
to Alena-Chapman.com because I've just worked with so many and it can be so much fun. I don't have any client that feels like it's work. And that's because it's not supposed to be. You're getting enlightened. You're not going to prison. And also I do love, yeah, I love it. And you can check out, I have Ascension 1, Ascension 2, and Ascension 3.
Right.
I
At
always tell it,
AlenaChapman.com.
and if you find yourself, you are someone. I've worked for the state of Indiana, actually, in Allen County for years through the court system, helping with abuse.
Oh,
I know you didn't know that, right? Teaching the same stuff, isn't
I
that
think I
amazing?
forgot. Yeah, we probably
Yeah,
taught the
yeah,
same classes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I've worked with abuse and things like that. So don't back away. And I do have a spiritual healing course that I do. And then if you're, because I am connected, I'm on a shamanic journey, guys. And I'm supposed to call myself a shaman. I'm just getting up the bravery to say that myself. But with that, I do a lot of banishing energy, helping you clear your aura. I do soul retrievals and past life regressions. And if you want little things like that, I'm always happy to do. But
Yeah.
really, I'm interested in helping you ascend because that's where you get the glory.
I wanted to mention, one of the favorite things I love doing, in my domestic violence classes, it was 80% men and 20% women. And I love telling, especially the guys, that when they're angry, it's fear. Anger is a secondary emotion. Any good psychologist, I've had some bad psychologists argue with me about that, but any good psychologist will tell you that anger is fear. And I
Yeah.
have to tell the committee and the local municipality that stop letting these teachers tell the men especially, that anger is a primary emotion. They need to be mindful of what anger is. Anger is their fear of losing the need for control. They have to let go of the need for control. They raise their voice and hit their significant other because they're afraid of losing control of the relationship. And if they don't know that anger is fear, if you're not mindful about that, how you're reacting, where your emotions are coming from, then we can't help them. They cannot help themselves if they're not mindful about what their real emotions are. So another thing about being mindful is not suppressing your emotions, experiencing them, feel them, and get curious about them. Why am I having this emotion?
Yeah.
Where is it in my body? And then you can dissolve it into joy and love.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that, if you're not mindful about why we're reacting, and what's funny is I had to take a course and read a psychology book before I was to teach these classes to get certified in anger management and domestic violence. But I knew that there was a point in my life where I was growing up and I said to myself, when I get angry, it's because I'm afraid. I'm angry and it's my fault. It's something I'm afraid of. You'll have these realizations when you're mindful, when you're ascend. I guess I'm almost there, Alena. Of course, it's not a goal; it's a journey,
No, it's
and
not.
I am so grateful. And I do want to say that yes, I have been to prison when I was very young, and no, I'm not. I had to get to that spot in my life where it's probably at one point is the worst thing that ever happened to me. I was attacked. They were trying to hurt me. They were trying to rob me. I defended myself and I got sent to prison. My family was devastated. But you know what? I'm grateful. I'm so grateful that I went because I learned so many things. I learned to meditate. I learned yoga. I took over the law library, was teaching law. I got a college degree. I learned about the hearts of men. And I learned about men who have no, their soul is not present and they have no heart. And I
And that
learned so
happened.
much that I am
Yeah,
grateful. I'm also grateful that I didn't let them take my weapon away, because God knows what they would have done to me or
yeah,
somebody else that night when they're out robbing houses. And so
right.
don't regret anything. If you can come to a spot of gratitude for everything that has happened to you, you have mastered your life and you can
Yes.
be your authentic self. Gratitude is a big part of
And if you can
mindfulness.
just start to understand it first, then that's what's going to cause you to have the gratitude.
Yeah.
Understand understand the lesson from it. Then all of a sudden, that's what gives you the gratitude for the lesson. And that is worth gold, because that's what's going to grow. Your soul's going to say, okay, we accomplished that. Check it off. It's good.
Yeah.
Not
Next.
going to happen again. She did it. He did it.
Yeah.
And
And
it's
then,
true. That's how it works, right?
yeah,
And it
exactly.
really
Yeah.
is something. Yeah. And it's really that simple. I'm really fascinated with everything I learn in the universe. And because really I'm learning that nothing is that complicated. It's just what makes it complicated is us
Mm.
trying to wrap our mind around. Everything is extremely simple and
Yes,
clear.
it is. Thank you.
Just that we don't want to accept it because
Mhm.
it's past our what we've been taught. But it's very simple. It is extremely clear, and it
So
just is.
is that an indicator? That's an indicator. If something seems really you can't wrap your head around something, it seems really complicated and you don't understand it, maybe it's because you're
Oh,
not being mindful.
yeah. And it's also I've always someone always said you take what really hard concepts and you make them simple. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? It's because it is. And we want to make it so complex. What in us feels that we have to make it complex? The universe is very simple. It's just us discovering it that seems to be complicated.
Which is
So yeah.
why it's important to be, if you understand something, then you'll be able to explain it to a 5-year-old because
Yes,
you've
because you
you've been through
understand
it.
it. Simple.
Yeah.
And I found that everything is extremely simple. And you don't have it doesn't it's so funny because we want to make it so complicated. And in the complication, then we feel like we have to make it strenuous. And when we make it strenuous, then we blame ourselves. And then when we blame ourselves, we feel like we're a victim. And I don't know, it just is a cycle we have to break.
I
And
feel like you
really,
just read my case study, Alena.
that that is the mundane world.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the mundane world in its glory. Look at what's happening now. Look at what our minds are being fed, and we're making it more and more complex, and we're being helped to make it more and more complex, right? And now we've got everybody fighting everybody, and we've got real division, which is not something we've ever wanted. We've got, but here's the thing, we can't stay in the mundane world and solve the problem because it's too heavy. In the ascension, when you start to ascend and you see the higher reasoning for everything, then you'll also see it's going to take it's going to take love and understanding to get through this and to heal everything.
And
It's
that's a good
not
example, is to
fighting.
heal, is to
It's not
heal.
going to take fighting. And we didn't learn that from our past wars. The Civil War, I'm down in the South. I know this. It did not cause healing, it
Right.
caused animosity,
Right.
it caused a simmering fire.
And how often do we hear that? Join the fight against cancer? No. Cancer is your
Not a
body
fight.
trying to tell
To
you
heal.
something. Be
Yeah.
mindful of that. Then you won't need a doctor to heal. I know. I've been there.
Right.
I've been in wheelchairs. I had when I left corporate, I was unemployable. I was so sick.
Yeah. I'm
If you
so
look at
sorry.
my video on my website, windhorsetransformation.com, I have me interviewing the old man. Raphael interviews the old man
Oh,
and
that's
talk
fun.
about, oh, I had no choice, Raphael. The doctors told me I had this and that. And I said, at some point you had a choice in your illness. You know, what were you getting out of that? You know, what payoff were you getting from that? But you know, to be mindful is to not join, like you said, I love that word. Thank you, Alena. Mundane is to
Yeah,
not join the fight. Don't give fight
don't
to the
join the fight.
energy. Don't
Not
give
fight.
that energy to it.
You have to learn a different way of being. And
Love
that's
and
not hard.
understanding.
And understanding. And it is. And all a part of that is mindfulness. It's a
Yes.
mindfulness for your own healing. That's important. And when you look at it that way, instead of, oh, I have to give up this, I have to give up that. See the difference in thought? Even that, all of a sudden there was heaviness in that thought, but thinking, no, I'm going to, I care about what I eat now because I want to heal. It's a different way of looking at it instead of, oh my gosh, I got to give up my sugar. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? It's the mindfulness
Your cells, every cell in your
creates,
body is listening to you.
you
Which
start
yeah.
listening. Yeah, you are on a different reality where that making everything hard and you're sacrificing is gone. And instead, you're doing the things to help you grow in
Mhm.
your health and your wellness and in your own understanding and knowledge and spirituality. And that's what Ascension really is. It's the mindfulness to even start looking at it in a different way. And that is kind of an important step, guys. And we don't seem and it's everything. If we could get everybody who's healing from a disease to understand the mindfulness and to ascend to a different level
And you know
of
what really
we
amazed me
massive
is
healing.
the Koreans and the Health Coast Institute I went to out of Boise,
Chinese.
Idaho. They both said the same thing. I understand the Koreans telling me that organic mind more important than organic food, even though they both help. You know, compared to what, right? Even though it's very
No,
important. But then the Health Coast Institute, I was really surprised to hear the American Health Coast Institute tell me that how you eat is more important than what you eat. And that's in line with organic mind, more important than organic body, because what
yes.
you're telling yourself is your cells are listening to you. It's like I remember Deepak Chopra talks about that a lot, or on other people like John Mahoney or Dan Mahoney. Is that his name?
Mhm.
The Irish
Mhm.
guy. He'll
Yes,
say that
yes, yes.
the thoughts are having, and of course a lot of other people, these thoughts are having a biochemical reaction in your body, and if you change your thought you will have an immediate biochemical response in your body with the hormones and the endorphins and
Makes total sense.
all
It
of that,
does.
the
If the mind is
neurotransmitter,
the
the
control,
neuropeptides, it's
yeah,
all listening to you. And so
yeah.
mindfulness. Yeah, thank
The
you.
mind is the control center of the body. And so whatever it experiences, it releases the hormones and all the everything into the body.
And guess
So
what? Your mind
which
is yours, but it's not you. It's up to
right,
you to control your mind or it will control you. Kind of like
right.
governments, huh? And on that note, Alina, what do you think? I think we covered some great areas
I think
here. Thank you.
we just solved all the world in this little podcast.
Well, because it starts with us and our
It
mindfulness.
does.
So
It
please be
does start with
mindful
us.
out there. Don't be mundane. Don't live in the mundane.
No,
And
don't.
let's
It's so
open
heavy
the
and hard.
door to the new ascension, the awakening with the sense of mindfulness and love for
And
everything,
love.
the other species, and especially for yourself, my friends. Love yourself. I told you that story about when I first started doing yoga. I was being trained by the Koreans. After my first class, I couldn't, you know, I was horrified. My blood stood still when the Heijong, who became a very good friend, told me, okay, everybody in class hug at least three people. And I thought, physically touch somebody? I was horrified. And I ran out, locked myself in the men's room. Then 3 days
Really?
later, the guy knocked on the door. Raphael, I have to go, open the door. And it's like, I have to go to the restroom. Because I didn't love myself. And
Right.
the thought of loving somebody else was strange to me. And so it was totally foreign. And so I go, okay, Frank. And I opened the door and these three guys grabbed me and pulled me out. And everybody in the class started hugging me. I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's a
And
funny
I was
one.
in tears,
I
because
bet you
we have to
were.
learn to hug ourselves first,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
then hug everybody else because they're you and we're them. We're
Yeah.
all connected.
Yeah. We're all connected. Yep.
Thank you, dear. It's been
Thank
wonderful.
you. Yeah. And again, check out AlenaChapman.com if you truly want to ascend with more ease and flow and understanding of the process, which is really big. If you understand the process, oh my God, it goes like wildfire, which is nice, which is really nice,
And
especially now.
I say you have to do the work, but Elena says it's not work. And that's okay.
No, I'm a person who loves to have fun. So
Yeah.
I don't, I work, but I always make it fun. So
Oh,
why wouldn't I
it
do
is
that when I
fun.
teach? Yeah.
When this woman appeared in my yoga room and told me it's time for you to rewrite your life, she was telling me, she didn't say it's time to rewrite your life. She said it's time for you to rewrite your life. That's all
You.
we do. I've seen a lot of my cohorts, or a lot of people out there they call it, people my age in my next 60 years, not retiring, refiring, right? So it
Right.
doesn't matter how old you are, you can use your mindfulness to be a little boy again, or
Yeah.
a little girl again, and start your life over if you want.
Yeah.
Start it today.
Oh
Go,
my gosh.
Alina.
Yeah. And that's the other
Please.
thing. And I know you wanted to kind of close, but my gosh, right now the biggest thing is this retirement age thing. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around it. I mean, as far
No,
as I'm concerned, all these 20-year-olds are saying, I'll never get to retire. They want us to work forever. Nobody
really?
puts a rent
Oh.
on whatever you do. That's nonsense.
I will
I was
never retire.
boy, don't do that. And number one, Social Security is going to be gone. It's going to be gone by the time I get there, let alone somebody younger.
That's why
And
I didn't wait. I got it from the first day. I'm not waiting for
I
things.
don't, I don't think I've always worked pretty much for myself. So I've never, I've very little in there. So I'm not worried
Yeah.
about it. But I mean, I've never guided my whole life for that. My life was supposed to be, I have done so many things in my life. And I always tell my boys, you're never locked into anything. You are going, and if you don't lock yourself into anything, and you don't think something owes you, like a corporation, a college, or wherever you work, right? They don't owe
Relationship.
you, then you're your own agent. What are you going to
Mhm.
do? And that gives you the freedom to change and do and be
Yes.
whatever you want to do and be. And you can create businesses, you can work within institutions, you can define yourself in many ways, and you will find that the talents you have are just forever growing.
Yeah.
I have had landscape companies, I have had landscape design, I'm a bronze master gardener, I've taught music in
And
colleges.
Alina, that's a whole nother podcast. Is you are
Yeah,
the driver of your car.
you.
You are the star of your movie. Everybody else is just an extra.
Yeah.
Yes,
If you just
you
remember
have
you
to
are
do that.
spirit,
I'm
spirit
sorry.
is not supposed to be defined. And when you ascend, you know that your spirit is can be anything.
Mhm.
You do not have to lock into the social norms of what people tell you. That's mundane. Stop it. You know?
The mindfulness of, when I had my big experiences from 2009 to 2019, the biggest message I walked out of there was very obvious. It took no thinking at all, was to tell everybody I ever see, and you looking at me right now, you are more beautiful and more powerful than you may have ever realized.
Yeah.
And you are not alone. And yeah, that's a whole nother podcast. We'll have to talk again, Alina.
We will. We
Thank
will.
you.
You
Thank you, my
take
friend. I
care,
love you.
everyone.
Thank
And
you.
oh, I am so glad you're all here. And thank you for having me, Raphael.
And I give you
Thank you.
permission to throw another log on that fire.
I think it's time. we got to keep it heated, right? All right. Bye-bye.
Let's have a great, wonderful day of our life every day, right now. The only moment is now.
Yes,
Let's
it
be
is.
mindful.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
Take care. Namaste.